Hello, I am Eddie O'Sullivan, and this is This Week in the Italian Campaign. In This Week in the Italian Campaign, brought to you by the Freedom for Italy Network, Italy and Operation Diadem. On the 22nd of April, a two-day meeting at Schloss Kleisheim near Salzburg involving Adolf Hitler and Benito Mussolini closed with a compromise in which Mussolini agreed to continue permitting the Italian troops to be trained in Germany, with the best fighters allowed to form the nucleus of the new National Republican Army. The meeting was attended by German Foreign Minister Joachim von Ribbentrop, Chief of the German High Command, and Wilhelm Keitel, German plenipotentiary to the Italian Social Republic, Rudolf Rahm, and Supreme SS and Police Leader in Italy, Karl Wolff. The Italian delegation included Minister of Defense of the Italian Social Republic, Rodolfo Graziani, and the Republic's ambassadors to Berlin, Filippo and Fuso. On the same day in Bari, a Prime Minister of the Royal Government, Pietro Badoglio, appointed a new cabinet consisting of 6 anti-fascist parties: the Christian Democracy Party, the Italian Liberal Party, the Action Party, the Labour Democrat Party, the Italian Socialist Party, and the Communists. The inclusion of the Communist Party followed the announcement by its leader, Palmiro Togliatti, that the party would participate in a government and that the future of the monarchy and whether King Victor Emmanuel III should be deposed would be decided after the war. Badoglio had been appointed Prime Minister to replace Mussolini on the 25th of July 1943. His first cabinet comprised Liberals, Christian Democrats, Independents and the military. He, the government and the king fled to Bari following the announcement of Italy's armistice with the Allies on the 8th of September. Badoglio unconditionally surrendered to the Allies on the 29th of September. The Allied Control Commission for Italy was set up and merged with the Allied military government of the occupied territories, which had been created following the capture of Sicily. It handed over the administration of the island to the Badoglio government in February 1944. The royal government declared war against Germany on the 13th of October 1943 as a co-belligerent with the Allies. It was directed by the Allied Advisory Council for Italy, which was set up to enforce the armistice as agreed at the Tehran summit involving Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, UK Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and US President Roosevelt, which had opened at the end of November 1943. Its members were representatives of the Soviet Union, the UK and the US, and the French Committee of National Liberation. Greece and Yugoslavia were subsequently added to the council. It was chaired by future British Prime Minister and UK Minister to the Mediterranean, Harold Macmillan. Other members included Soviet Prime Minister Andrei Vyshinsky and Robert Murphy, representing the US. A new factor quickly emerged in the form of anti-fascist political parties. A congress of 6 of them in Bari in January 1944 demanded that the Allied Control Commission should force Victor Emmanuel to abdicate, to wash away the shame of the past. Some called for a republic to be proclaimed at once. Others wanted the king's son Umberto to succeed to the throne, while some called for Umberto to renounce his claim to the throne in favour of his son. Some were willing to accept Umberto as Luogotenente Generale del Regno. The Bari Congress eventually concluded that the institutional question should be settled only once all of Italy was liberated. A new turning point came in April 1944 when Togliatti, who had returned to Italy after 17 years exile in Moscow, declared that the Communist Party was prepared to join a government of national unity and that the future of the king and the monarchy should be decided after the war. He became Deputy Prime Minister. Christian Democrat Salvatore Aldisio, a Sicilian, was made Interior Minister. The second Badoglio government lasted until the 18th of June, 2 weeks after Rome was liberated. One of the Badoglio government's first measures was the creation of an army. The first motorised grouping, the first force of Italy's co-belligerent army, was created on the 27th of November 1943 near Brindisi. It drew on the 58th Legnano Infantry Division and comprised almost 6,000 men. The grouping was initially commanded by General Vincenzo D'Apino, who led it during the first engagement in the Battle for the Mignano Gap in December 1943. It suffered heavy casualties and was judged to have performed satisfactorily. D'Apino moved to the Royal Italian Army's General Staff in January 1944, and command of the first motorised grouping was given to General Umberto Utili. It was transferred to the Polish Second Corps on the left of the British Eighth Army. On the 18th of April 1944, the motorised grouping assumed the name Italian Liberation Corps, and it was divided into two brigades. The corps was augmented with the 6,000 men from the 184th Nembo Paratroopers Division. In November 1943, the Allied military government called on Italian men to volunteer to serve with the Allies, but only 1 in 4 responded, and there were demonstrations across the south against the call-up. Some refused to mobilise out of anger at the refusal of the Allies to return Italian prisoners of war, the requirement that draftees buy their own gear, and because of war weariness. Those who did enlist complained about being given support roles and menial labour. But by the end of the war, 254,000 Italians had enlisted under British and American command. A further 67,000 joined the reconstituted Royal Italian Army. The fighting, the bombing and the loss of men as prisoners of war and forced labour for the Germans crippled Italy's economy. This was compounded in liberated areas by the deficiencies of the Allied Control Commission and the mishandling of the monetary system. There were shortages of essentials, including food, and inflation soared. Across Italy, people began to starve. The black market, fueled by stolen Allied supplies, boomed. Women struggling to feed families turned to extreme measures, including prostitution. Criminal activity in the south increased by almost 50% to more than 1 million cases between 1943 and 1945. Sicily verged on open lawlessness in the summer of 1944. Deserters were responsible for murders, assault, and rape. An Allied officer recorded that any soldier that goes absent without leave from his organization winds up in our territory. As soon as he runs out of money, he engages in theft, robbery, counterfeiting, or some other illegal activity. In the north of Italy, Mussolini was under effective house arrest, and his Italian Social Republic was financially dependent upon Germany. The Germans viewed it mainly as a tool for maintaining order, including repressing partisans. Northern Italian territories were incorporated de facto into the Third Reich, though Hitler refused to annex South Tyrol, where many German speakers lived, in spite of urging by local German officials. The Italian islands of the Aegean were occupied under the nominal sovereignty of the Social Republic, and the concession of Tientsin in China was ceded to the Japanese puppet reorganized national government of the Republic of China. Mussolini convened the Congress of Verona on the 14th to the 15th of November 1943, which reconstituted the Fascist Party as the Republican Fascist Party. It abolished the monarchy, denounced the king as a traitor, and made promises that represented a radical departure from previous fascist policy. The Congress announced that it planned to introduce a democratic government elected on the basis of popular sovereignty, convene a constituent assembly that would draft a new constitution, allow freedom of the press, and create an independent judiciary to investigate corruption and abuses under the previous fascist government. His plans included handing uncultivated land to poor farmers, bringing some key industries under state ownership, and instituting profit sharing in private industry. But discontent under fascist rule, fueled by shortages and inflation, erupted in a strike wave beginning on the 1st of March 1944 that swept northern Italy. resistance groups started attacking German and fascist targets. On the 16th of October 1943, the Rastenburg Protocol with Germany allowed Marshal Rodolfo Graziani to raise 4 divisions totaling 52,000 men as part of the National Republican Army, which was formed on the 28th of that month. The elite Decima Flotilla, dissolved after the armistice, was revived in the Social Republic under Junio Valerio Borghese. In March 1944, the Italian volunteer SS Legion, formed from volunteers, was deployed at Anzio under Karl Wolff. In May, Heinrich Himmler allowed it to be fully integrated into the Waffen-SS. It was later renamed the Italian Waffen Grenadier Brigade of the SS. The National Republican Air Force was organized into 3 fighter groups: 1 torpedo bomber group, 1 bomber group, and other transport and minor units. It worked with the Luftwaffe in northern Italy. The bulk of the Regia Marina was ordered to steam to Malta at the time of the armistice. The Social Republic's National Republican Navy only reached a 20th of the size of the co-belligerent navy that fought with the Allies. It comprised 9 motor torpedo boats and dozens of small motor torpedo boats and explosive motorboats. It also operated 15 midget submarines and 1 larger submarine. In November 1943, the Social Republic established the National Republican Guard and the Republican Police Corps. On the 15th of August 1944, the Republican Guard became part of the National Republican Army. The paramilitary Black Brigade was recruited from Fascist Party members. It fought alongside SS formations against the Italian resistance. On the 19th of April 1944, Royal Irish Fusiliers Captain Laurie Franklin Vale wrote to his wife Olive from a rest camp where he had been granted 7 days' leave. I'm writing this on the balcony of an hotel, gazing out at the sea. The sun is pleasantly warm and the sea looks very blue. From this you can conclude that I am having my first leave since I joined the battalion. My partner in crime here is Captain Camillard, the intelligence officer. Cammy is an excellent chap, 31 years, half French, and very witty and intelligent. The hotel we are staying at must have been a very luxurious affair in peacetime. It has been taken over by the British authorities and is run as an hotel for British officers. Cammy and I share a room with 2 extremely comfortable beds, a wash basin with hot and cold water, with all the peacetime amenities one had almost forgotten about. Last night, I slept like a log. The service is quite good, and apart from the number of people in uniform, the atmosphere is completely non-military. Prices are very reasonable. 2 and 6 for a bed, 1 shilling for breakfast, 2 and 6 for lunch, 2 and 6 for dinner. I was looking around today to see what I could buy you, but the town seems sucked dry. The shops are very empty. When I know my way around a bit more, I may be able to pick up something useful. I hope everything is going well for you, darling. I would dearly love to see Valerie now. She sounds fascinating from your letters, and I very much like reading about all her doings and sayings. All my love and kisses to you both, sweetheart. Your devoted husband, Lawrence. Anyway, that tells you the story of the extreme trauma that Italy suffered in the Second World War, a divided nation with people fighting on both sides, on all sides, and sometimes against each other. Anyway, I hope that you found that interesting. Well, that's it this week. We don't have a live guest, but we will be back next week with another edition of This Week in the Italian Campaign. Next week, we're going to be looking at the Polish Corps and how the Polish Corps came to be in Italy, where it played a critical role in the Fourth Battle of Cassino, which began in May. So until then, from everybody here, it's goodbye, good luck, And may God bless you all.